Hello, I'm Claire's mum and it's my birthday tomorrow and we've invited Claire and Errol for afternoon tea. So I'm going to be making a sponge cake now for tomorrow's tea. I've gathered my ingredients together and I'll just talk you through what they are. So I'm going to be using 4 free-range eggs. I'm going to be using self-raising flour, caster sugar, which is slightly finer than ordinary granulated sugar, better for cakes. I'm going to be using soft butter. It's better than hard butter for a cake, makes your sponge softer, lighter. And then some baking powder and a little bit of vanilla essence. So those are the ingredients. And I've got 2 8-inch cake tins ready here. I've already greased them with butter paper. The way I do that is get the paper from a hard butter that we've already finished, put a little bit of butter on it, which I've already done, and smear that around the cake tin and around the parchment, baking parchment, which I cut out to size to fit the bottom of the tin. These are tins where the bottom lifts out like this, which makes it a lot easier to get your cake out after it's baked, because one of the crisis points for me is getting the cake out of the tins without them breaking. I've had some disasters with that in the past. So that's the 2 cake tins ready. You might be able to hear a hum in the background. That's the oven on at 170, ready to bake the cake. And I've got scales here, kitchen scales. Handy because you can set them to 0 after you put your bowl on. So the bowl that I'm using is the bowl from our mixer, the KitchenAid mixer, which is fantastic. So I've put that on directly onto the scales. I'm now going to press on 0 and I've got it to 0 grams. I can do it in ounces if I want. Doesn't really matter because what I'm going to do is weigh 4 eggs, and that's the weight that I do for the flour and the sugar. So I'll just weigh 4 eggs and see, still in their shells, just for the weight. These are big eggs. So this is coming to 300 grams exactly. That's 10 5/8 ounces. That's really 10.5 ounces. That'll do, that's close enough for me. So I'll use those 4 eggs, put them back in the egg box so as not to break them, and then I'll weigh out the other things to 10.5 ounces, and that's the weight that I'm going to weigh. I'm going to be struggling for butter, I think, here. I'll just check it. It's okay, it's 15 3/4 ounces in the tub. Obviously the tub weighs something, but there's going to be enough for me there, so that's fine. The method that I'm using for this cake is Delia Smith's all-in-one method, which I find pretty foolproof for me. You put everything together in the bowl and then you whisk it up, basically. So I'll just start assembling the ingredients, and first of all it says sift flour and baking powder into the bowl. Well, I don't actually sift it anymore. I think sifting maybe is for if you've got lumpy flour. I don't know, I'm probably wrong, but I've always got away without sifting it. So I'm looking for 10.5 ounces of flour. Roughly 1 ounce in one of these spoons. That's 4, 6, 8, 9, there. 10 3/8, 10.5. I've gone for the 5/8, which is what the eggs tell me to do. Right, now the sugar. Oh, yeah, the sugar. Same measurement of sugar, caster sugar, I'll get a different spoon. So my scales will now go up to 21 if I'm adding 10.5 ounces. My scales go up to 21. The trouble is that when it gets to a pound it says 1, at 16 ounces is a pound. So it's going to be 1 pound 4 ounces. That's what I'm looking for. 3 3/4, 3 5/8, 4. I'll go for that 5/8 again. There we go. Mix the flour and sugar in. Now the baking powder, it says for 2 large eggs, she said you needed 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So I'm doing 4 eggs, so I'm going to need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I probably should have put that in on top of the flour, but I haven't, it doesn't matter. Now the 4 large eggs, which I'll break in, I don't want to get bits of eggshell in the bowl, so I'll break them into something else first to stop that happening. So I'll crack them on the side of a bowl and just check that I haven't got any eggshell in there. That's good. Nice eggs. Nice and orange yolks. No eggshell so far. So far so good. That's lovely. No eggshell. So they all go in. Right, just check the ingredients. I've got the flour, I've got the baking powder, I've got the sugar, I've got the eggs. I need to put in the butter, margarine or butter it says, and the vanilla essence. That's the last things we're going to need. So the margarine or butter. Now I'm checking the measurement again now. Actually I'll put the vanilla essence in next because that'll affect the measurement as well. And it said 2 to 3 drops. I'll put quite a lot. I like vanilla. Quite a few drops. There we go. And now my measurements say 1 pound 13 ounces and 7/8 the eggs and the vanilla essence and the baking powder have taken it up. So I need another 10 ounces worth of soft butter. So that will take me up to, that's adding 3 ounces. So I want to put 2.7 ounces, it will say altogether. So the butter is already very, very soft. I've had it out of the fridge a little bit, but I'll break it up as well as I'm putting it in. Make it even easier to mix. So £2 2 ounces so far, £2 3 ounces, 5 1/4, better go easy now, don't want to go over, 5 3/4, £2 6 1/4, just a little bit more, £2 6 1/2, a little bit more, 6 3/4, sorry I'm being very careful, 7/8, didn't expect this, £2 7 ounces, that's the 10 ounces that I was looking for. So that's all the ingredients assembled. So now I'm going to go over to the mixer and mix everything together. I've come over to the mixer now and all the ingredients are in the bowl, not mixed at all. I'm going to be using this whisker for the KitchenAid. So first of all I'll put the top up, fix the whisker in, that's it, sit the bowl underneath top down again and just start to whisk. Start with slow, going faster. I'll just get the mix down from the sides with this thing. That's it. Right. And what we're looking out for is the mix dropping off the bottom of the whisk quite freely. It's not dropping off all that freely yet, so I put a little bit of warm water that I've got from the kettle, a little bit of warm water in, not that much, probably half of that. That's it. And I'll set the mixer going again, put the thing down and get the whisk going. And it sounds different now, and when I take it up I'm sure it'll be dropping off the whisk a lot better. Have a look. Not sure if you can see that, but it is dropping off quite well. So that's the mixture that I was looking for. That's great. I'll just give it a little whisk with that. And now it's time to put that into the 2 tins and put it in the oven. So I'll get the tins and I'll do it over here where we're set up. Taking care not to lose the bits that are dropping off the whisk. Here's the 2 tins. And now I'm going to kind of roughly measure like 1 spoonful for that tin and 1 spoonful for that tin, and so on, to try and keep it even. Some people actually weigh at this point, but I just want it roughly the same amount in the 2 tins. So long as I alternate, I should be okay. That's it. That's us. Just going to smooth it in the tins a little bit, put it into the corners, and if anything, encourage it to have a bit of a dip in the middle so that it doesn't dome up too much in the middle. But that's as much as I usually do. There. Same with that one. Push it towards the corners and encourage it to have a bit of a dome in, a bit of a dip in the middle to try to avoid that dome when you're cooking it. So that's it done. And now I'm going to put them both in the oven for about 30 minutes, and I'll set a timer because otherwise I'll forget. It's a fan oven, so it doesn't matter where I put them. So Alexa, set a timer, 30 minutes. Forgot to turn her on. That's us for now. I'll show you the cakes when they're finished. My cakes are out of the oven, and this is the most critical part for me. They've risen quite well, they're looking good. They're still hot, and I need to loosen them from the sides of the tins and get them onto the cooling rack, hopefully without breaking them. So first of all, I'm going to go around the outside with a palette knife. I've done it before with an ordinary knife and I've cut into the side of the cake, which has been a mistake. So I'll go around them gently with a palette knife. I'm just loosening the cake from the sides of the tin, trying to be gentle with the palette knife. I've been all the way around this tin now, and because they're loose bottom tins, I can try a little trick which I've found helpful in the past. I'm putting quite a big mug down, and I'm going to put the tin down on that, and now hopefully I'll be able to take the side of the tin down and leave the cake undamaged. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm making a little bit of headway here. I've got a tea towel because the cake tin is still very hot, and I'm trying not to burn myself. I'm going to have to go back to the palette knife now because I'm meeting some resistance. Which suggests that I haven't greased the tin well enough to start with. Okay, we'll try that again. Put the cut back, put the tin on, and try again to loosen the bottom. I'm pressing it up. Yay! I've done it. That's okay. Looks good, and it's undamaged. Lovely. Now a bit of nifty work to get a hold of the hot bottom of the cake tin, get rid of that and that. And now, bearing in mind I've got the paper on the bottom of this tin, I'll try and slide this off and put it on, still with the paper onto the cooling rack. I'm just kind of swiveling it round to loosen it even more. I'm okay now, I think. Maybe not been gentle enough with this one. Yeah, success. Not too bad. And I'll be doing the same with the other one, but it's exactly the same, so you don't need to see that. Hello. So back to the cake, and I'm going to be making the buttercream icing now and preparing the jam for the filling for the cake. I'm pleased with the way that the cake turned out. I've got it just stacked between some pieces of parchment paper there so that it doesn't stick. So that's the cake. I'm going to be using icing sugar. I'm going to be using 6 ounces of icing sugar and 3 ounces of block butter, which I've had out of the fridge so it's nice and soft. And I'm going to be putting a little bit of vanilla extract into the icing sugar, and I may need to add a little bit of milk. I usually put some lemon juice or orange juice into the buttercream icing just to make it slightly less sweet and to give it the little bit of liquid that it needs, but I've run out of lemons. So again, I'm using the KitchenAid mixer, so put the unit to 0 so that I can start measuring things out, and I'll measure 6 ounces of icing sugar. You can see how it's becoming very cloudy into the atmosphere. So if I were to put it straight into the mixer and turn the mixer on, I'd have icing sugar everywhere in the room, which I don't like. So I usually start it off just in the bowl with a wooden spoon until I get it mixed enough so that the cloud disperses. So now I'm going to add 3 ounces of butter. That's it. And now I'm just going to start it off with the wooden spoon, mixing it up just to try and control this cloudiness that you get off the icing sugar. This is a bit tedious, it will take me a while, so I'll maybe come back to that later. And after I've done that, I'll be putting it in the mixer again, but I won't give you the treat of watching that because I know it's noisy and not very nice. But I'll show you what I do with the jam, which is another top tip. So the jam for the filling, I put into a little bowl first. This is seedless bramble preserve. We like seedless at the moment. So I put it into a bowl like this. I'll be using all that jam. I like it nice and jammy. I just whisk it up in the bowl for quite a while, so that it slackens it and it makes it much easier to spread on the cake. You can see now that it's got a good runny texture, which it didn't have in the jam jar. So that's a top tip for you. Right, I'll just finish off this buttercream icing, which I'll say it's quite boring, so I'll come back later. So here's the buttercream after it's been mixed in the whisker, again in the machine. You can do the whole process by hand. You don't have to use a mixer, it just takes longer. Yeah, and you're looking for a reasonably soft mix, not too soft, about like that. So first of all, I've put the jam on the cake. If one cake is better looking than the other, choose the worst cake for the bottom. Just stick the jam on like this. I'm pleased that I've slackened that jam off, and now just spread it out. Spread it out so that it gets right to the edges, and if some of it comes off the side like that, never mind, it looks quite nice. So that you can see a bit of jam on the outside of the cake when it's complete. I think it looks nice. And then put the buttercream on the other cake. I'll just swap them over. You can see what I've done. That's the outside. And now the buttercream's going on this one. I'll need another knife, like these big old-fashioned knives. They're good for spreading things. Right, so spread it out as best you can without damaging the cake. This looks okay, not exactly perfect, but we like rustic here. It's a good excuse to do things rustic. Or I like to think of it as like a desperate Dan cake. You know, whoops, a little bit damage on the side there, never mind. So that's probably as good as it's going to get. A little bit more in there. Let's see if I can get that in as well on a thin bit. And there we are. right up to the edge if possible. And now sandwich the two cakes together. So we've got that cake and that cake. This is how I'm going to be storing the cake. It's got a top like this. So I use it, put it upside down, so that the top's on the right way. You see what I mean? So this is going to be the upper cake. So now it's just a question of putting them together and getting them on. That's it. There we go. That's it. That looks okay. Now for the top, I'm just going to dust it with icing sugar. Sometimes I melt chocolate on the top and what have you. But here I'm just going to dust it with, there's just a little bit of icing sugar left, just enough for dusting the top. Actually, I'll put it in a sievie thing to make it look better. Sorry, I should have got that out first. Put that in there and dust it around like that. And it doesn't look perfect, but I think it looks pretty inviting. And that's my sponge cake. And here's Claire and Errol.
Hi.
Ready for afternoon tea. And we've got sandwiches, butter, scones, sausage rolls,
Homemade.
crisps, yep, homemade bread, and the cake, and the lovely flowers.